Welcome to another retro review. Today we're going to be looking at Castlevania. I found that Castlevania was a little bit hard to splice together certain scenes and certain combat styles. It's a pretty straightforward game. So today we're just going to look at one of the playthroughs I did. I think I covered the first 2 levels. Castlevania is still one of the largest franchises in the video game industry. As of 2014, I believe there are now 37 titles in the Castlevania franchise, the last one being Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2. Castlevania was released in Japan in 1986 on Famicom's disc-based system. It was not on a cartridge. There's a picture of it right there. The United States would receive it in 1987 on a cartridge for the NES, and then Europe would get it in 1988. Castlevania's story is a pretty basic story. In fact, they left most of the mythology up to the later installments of the franchise. But for this installment, the story consists of you need to go and kill Dracula with your magic whip. Welcome to Dracula's Castle. You're going to start the game, and because it's on the original Nintendo and there's only so many buttons, you're probably going to figure out very quickly how to play the game. In fact, this first portion of video that you're watching right here, while you go into the castle, it gives you time to get used to the controls because there aren't any enemies until you walk into the castle itself. What you're going to notice is that you're going to play the game slashing with your whip, enemies and zombies, and just your normal dark mythology characters, including Medusa, Frankenstein, some golem-looking characters, zombie dogs, just your normal stuff. But you're also going to be hitting candlesticks. These candlesticks allow you to gain powers and abilities that you wouldn't normally have if you went through the game without hitting a single one of them. It's kind of hard to avoid. These candlesticks you're going to be hitting, you're going to find whip upgrades. That's probably one of the first things you're going to find. Whip grades are important. They make your whip more powerful, and they actually make it longer as well. Great ability. You're also going to find hearts, which, contrary to what new people think, they are not health. The hearts are actually uses of a sub-weapon that you can also find in candlesticks. These sub-weapons range from knives to axes to clocks and a boomerang, which, most people call it a boomerang, and the manual calls it a boomerang. But in later renditions of the franchise, they actually started calling it a cross. So Castlevania is very linear. Unlike the games on the Game Boy Advance, PlayStation 1, and even the more modern ones today, Castlevania 1 is a very linear, single-path game. This doesn't mean that Castlevania is boring when it comes to level design. In fact, for 1986, 87, and 88, I believe that this is some of the best level design that we've seen in video games up to this point. You can go upstairs, downstairs, you have to backtrack one way or the other as you climb your way up through the castle. The level design is precise and it is exact, but this makes it also very fun. This exactness or precision that I've talked about is also apparent within the graphic fidelity of this 8-bit game. If you take some time and just look at the blocks and even the stairs in this portion of the video, you can see that they tried to add shading onto the aesthetics of the castle. Combat also happens to be very exact. As you go through the game, you're going to notice that there is only so many times that button press is going to register as an attack. And this goes not just for your main weapon, but also your sub-weapons or your secondary weapons as well. However, with the secondary weapons, depending on what you like and what you want to use for a particular encounter, it will also determine how many times you get to attack. So for example, the boomerang or cross that I have in this video right here will attack twice. It'll go one way and then come back the other. As I die down that horrible pit, you're also going to notice that jumping can become very difficult as well, and that same precision needs to also be used. Between enemies trying to attack you while jumping and making the jump itself, Castlevania's platforming can be some of the hardest that you will find from the 8-bit era. And I can't leave this review without mentioning the music. Castlevania's music is extremely inspiring. I know that maybe inspiring may be a little off, but it's true. There are very few games where I can say that the music always keeps me coming back, and Castlevania is one of those, because as I traverse Dracula's castle, the music gives the aesthetic that I am on a dangerous journey that I want to keep coming back to. So we have to ask ourselves, does Castlevania hold to today's standards? Well, I would say yes, but I also grew up with the game. So in order to get a better assessment of whether this game holds up or not, I actually handed it to a few kids, some of them being my kids, and I actually found that through generational time, through gameplay mechanics, they actually had a hard time with it. Now, this isn't anything that you couldn't overcome as a parent or as a mentor in, say, 5 to 10 minutes of talking about how the game mechanics work and hand them the controller and let them figure it out for themselves. I mean, we did it and we figured it out. So it's nothing that a child today can't overcome or can't see the value in. However, I don't think certain people today, my son being one, I don't think certain kids today will be able to understand the value of such a game because it is so old and so simple. So just because another generation doesn't see the value in something doesn't mean that it isn't a masterpiece. Castlevania continues to be a masterpiece. If it doesn't continue to be a masterpiece, say, in visual quality for, say, an 8th grader today, the 13, 14-year-old mentality, then so be it. But Castlevania is still a precise, artistic game that should be valued in this modern world. It has spawned more than 37 different titles in the franchise, and it must be given our respect. So on that note, thank you for watching another retro review. If you haven't seen my others, I will make sure to post links to them. I have one for Gunsmoke and Resident Evil already up, and I've got more in store, so stay tuned.